9 steps for sensitives and empaths for adults, teens, and children. These are 9 steps for healing. Hi, I'm Susan Sophia James, an advanced intuitive and mystic and a doctor of behavioral health. I made this video because I meet people who are sensitive or empaths who need to know how to use their gifts, sensitivities, empathic nature, and abilities to their advantage. I also often meet adults who become either overwhelmed, shut down, sometimes even depressed, or don't want to engage at all because they feel they are too sensitive or don't know how to manage what they're encountering. And I also have met people who use different substances, including alcohol, cannabis, and other products to manage their sensitivity. So I want to give tools that help heal, uplift, and honor the gifts of being sensitive and empathic. Children and adolescents may manifest symptoms of depression, anxiety, eating disorders, or other behaviors as a method to cope with their situation. Alternatively, they may take on the role of the person who is acting out or not fitting in like the black sheep in the family so they can stay intact, so they become the focus rather than the deterioration of the family. This reaction and behavior are unconscious, and then it carries over into their life as an adult. And here are steps to aid children, adolescents, and adults who are sensitive, empathic, or feel they don't fit in. And people who are sensitive, empathic, or feel disconnected will benefit from the following steps. Step 1 is signal observation. Signal observation is to situations, people, and the environment. We are not taught how to observe these responses within ourselves and often are unconsciously trained to ignore those signals in an attempt to fit in. But they are our navigational system that we are born with, and they are present even when they are ignored, and so we can easily tap right back into them. Signal observation is developing methods to notice the cues and signals in situations and in the environment and from other people that indicate a sensitive and empathic response, bringing it to conscious awareness, and then deciding what, if anything, needs to be done. And sometimes it's just noticing the response and accepting and allowing without responding or freaking out about the sensations. And knowing the sensitivity or empathic response is part of our innate navigational system. This system is an ally and to be trusted, not discounted. Notice and observe the responses. How do they occur? Are they knowings, distress, anxiousness, or another kind of internal cue? Make a mental note of when the reaction occurs. And here's an example. Walking into a room with a group of people and feeling anxious after getting into the room and knowing that you didn't feel anxious beforehand. And that knowing is telling you that it's not your anxiety, but an anxiety that you're picking up from potentially and most likely someone in the room. And just knowing that is a healing step. And this is about staying attuned to feeling awareness, which is connected to our intuition, and honoring it. Another way to use inner attunement method is to take stock of when this feeling response that you noticed occurred and write that date in a calendar and the time. So if it was in the evening or morning or midday, or write it in your phone. And making a record is vital to use this information so you can notice patterns. And the patterns can help with understanding for the future, for our self-care, and knowing what the next step is. So simultaneously know to trust yourself or to help the child or teen gain valuable information from their experience. So honoring your knowing in whatever way you receive the information, and know it is perfect for you. And as you honor it and listen, it will become more apparent and useful. And here's step 2. This is a plan. Create a plan for self-care as an adult and the sensitive and empathic child or teen. Our sensitivity or empathic meter is part of us and in operation all the time. The self-care is for when you are attending gatherings with other people, traveling, going to events, and being around negativity or other situations that can become overwhelming or distressing. As adults, we can learn to manage and understand our sensitive and empathic responses as a vital and useful part of our awareness and draw upon this knowing. And for children or teens, we can help them by observing what we notice with them and then support them in what they notice without imposing our projections. And then we can encourage them to discover what plans or tools they can use when they are at an event, traveling, or being around anxiety, negativity, or feeling overwhelmed or distressed. I'm going to give you a number of suggestions now that are underneath this category of a plan that can be incorporated into your life. And these are very useful tools, and they covered different areas of how we take in information. This particular part of the plan is very significant for any age person, whether they're a baby, a young child, a teen, an adult, or an elder. We are auditory beings, and music changes us and is very powerful. There's plenty of research on this, but it hasn't gotten to the public in a way that people can use it and apply it in their life in meaningful ways. So discovering specific music that you can use to relax, that causes a shift in consciousness, is profound and a way to relax and also release any kind of discombobulating energy that people get if they're sensitive or empathic. A shift in consciousness means heart rate, brain waves, and breath, which occurs simultaneously, and then that helps us shift into that relaxation. To make these effective, you need to choose one kind of music and use that particular piece over and over, because it goes into our consciousness, and when we first hear the very first few notes, we will immediately begin to shift over as the longer and the deeper we are trained in that particular piece. So then it becomes this very significant and powerful piece of music for us. And that's because we're trained to hear the music and immediately release and relax. And here are 3 musical pieces specifically selected, also known as curated, that have this effect and can be used with any age. And the first one is Water of Life by David Gibson and Claire Victor Jan Serson, and you can find that on Amazon. Sacred Circle Songs at twi.education under meditation, and also the Heart Centering Meditation at twi.education under the store under meditations. And the next one that I'm going to recommend is the album called Migrations by Carlos Nakai, and that is on iTunes and also Amazon. So they're very different. Each one is very unique and also evokes that response that can transport you simply and easily by listening and breathing. Another method to engage kinesthetic, and so touching and sensing shape and temperature and smoothness, is using a stone that can be held either during going out into the world, in a pocket, in a purse. Sometimes even people pin a stone to their body, and also holding it afterwards. So a recommended stone could be smoky quartz, which can be very cool to the touch, and it can be just a piece that fits into the hand, that's smooth and easy to hold. The process of using a stone in that way is just to take a breath and hold it and relax. Another sensory experience that's very useful and symbolic is using a shower or a bath after traveling or feeling distressed or depleted or from traveling. And that helps to have a sense of cleansing and releasing and feeling the coolness or the warmth and the way that the water engages with the body and also how it looks and smells. Another important self-care method is to establish a sacred or special place that uses different senses, which include visual light and shadow and color, touch, smell, and sound. It can be in a yard or an outside space or a room or an area of a room, a corner, and can also become a designated area with specific soothing objects. In an outside space, create a circle of stones in the yard where people don't walk through and go to that circle for a few moments or longer to breathe and relax. This can also be a meditation space, and an outside water feature can be placed in there to also engage another smell and sound and visual appearance. In an inside space, you can use a salt crystal lamp because of the color and the light, and it also releases negative ions that are relaxing. And you can also get a small water fountain because of the sound and the visual appearance. Another aspect that can be added is to use essential oils in moderation that help to encourage relaxation. So we know some people who are sensitive also have a lower tolerance for lots of strong odors, and sometimes essential oils can be very overpowering. So using those essential oils in small amounts, and that again engages another sense. So we're looking at different senses to involve to create that space of relaxation. And this is step 3. Step 3 is to know and to release. Learn to know when there is a feeling of discomfort so it can be released. And knowing that it can be released is the piece that I'm emphasizing. The more willing you are to be present and notice, the easier it will be to recognize and release something that is other than yourself through being sensitive or empathic, that doesn't need to be held. So I'm emphasizing that part, doesn't need to be held. Most of the time people have experiences and don't realize they do not have to continue to hold that experience. That means there can be a conscious intention to release and let it go and no longer hold it. And you can think of an example that all of us probably experience if we are driving and experience road rage. Often that road rage can leap to another person, but because someone has road rage and there's an experience of that road rage, it doesn't mean that we have to hold or continue or to allow that road rage to get inside of us and make us angry or upset. So here's a statement that can be said to ourselves silently and out loud, and this can be shared with a child or a teen too. I easily recognize and release energy that does not serve me. And the process with this statement is to take a breath in as an inhale and then an exhale and let it go. So the process is to take a breath in. I easily recognize and release energy that does not serve me, and then an exhale and let it go. And that's it. So you can repeat that, recognizing and utilizing tools to release discomfort, distress, negativity, or overwhelming feelings is another step that sends 2 messages. One message is there's something that we can do about having sensitivity and empathy when it doesn't help us or when we're overwhelmed by it. And the second message is that we don't have to take ownership or internalize those sensitivities or empathic awareness. And the process brings everything to our conscious awareness. Then we know the sensitive or empathic nature are awarenesses, and they are not us. So taking steps to release and not identify with the feelings does take practice, but each time the intervention is used, it strengthens the ability to observe the feelings are external and not us. And another part of this process is to consistently be present in the moment, to be aware of what we are noticing. So we can teach that to others by doing it. And this is also a strong message from Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And it's very useful for adults to continue to hold on to some of those concepts so that it isn't a book that's just read and put down, but to actually use the concept. So being present in the moment is a very helpful to not let the past gauge us or our programming of being shut down. Step 4 is grounding. For adults, develop a daily, preferably morning grounding practice is helpful for beginning the day. It sets the tone and anchors the energy. Regular grounding means making a connection to being present and grounded to the earth each day, preferably before beginning your day. And grounding practices give you a resource and conduit for additional practices for staying balanced and strengthening the mind, body, intuition, and spirit, which also strengthens the energy body. I've also learned many people who are sensitive and empathic find it challenging to be present on earth and are not grounded. This sometimes means there's an unwillingness even to be here. So being grounded is an action, affirmation, and commitment that means you're willing to engage and develop and grow. And the more you practice the grounding, the stronger it gets, and the exercise goes smoothly and quickly. And the statement is, with your 2 feet on the ground and your arms uncrossed, I am present and grounded on earth today. And as you say that, to visualize the entire earth and that you are connected to it. And there are more advanced grounding methods that are in the Intuition Evolution program. And step 5 is protection. Protection is the visualization. There's a sphere of impenetrable, luminous, and radiant light around your secondary auric field. This sphere deflects negativity and does not allow it to come through. And the sphere is continuous and uniform above the head, below the feet, on the right side and left side, and behind our back and in front of us. And visualize this sphere after the grounding. And you can use this method daily. And this is an easy method to teach children. Often young children are really able to visualize this quickly and easily. And it's something that can be done with teens as well. So it's kind of showing that even though it doesn't minimize people having feelings or experiences, it's an added way to engage positive energy as a conscious action. Step 6 is growth. Know all situations have the opportunity to teach us and that we can grow from them. Ask yourself how you might develop from using your sensitivity or being an empath. What can you learn? Where is this leading you? If you feel isolated, find other people who are also sensitive and empathic, and they maybe can teach you how they work with their sensitivity and empathy, and read about people who are sensitive and empathic. The book 50 Plus Kinds of Intuition, which is available on Amazon, has over 50 kinds of intuition and lots of ways people have empathy and sensitivity and how they're used in many different areas. How can you use being sensitive and empathic with your nighttime dreams and your personal visions for your life and purpose? Here's a recommended movie called Sensitive, the Movie, with Alanis Morissette in it, and it's on her website. And step 7 is attention to food. And what that means is attention to food in a variety of ways. So one of them is to have regular meals and not skipping meals. And the reason for this is that when people have sensitivity and they're empathic, and their system isn't stabilized through good and healthy eating, that the disruption in getting nourishment can cause oversensitivity or becoming overwhelmed easier. And so it's helpful to have that stability and balance underneath by attending to good food intake. So that also means minimizing or entirely deleting sodas, fast food, sugars, excess salt and caffeine, and processed foods. So basically, if it comes in a box, or a bag, it's processed. And that doesn't matter if it's a regular grocery store or a natural grocery store or an organic grocery store. They still all have processed foods there. So avoid processed foods because they have low nutrition. They often have additives, colors, preservatives, excess salts, and sugars. So attend to eating healthy proteins, healthy fats, veggies, plenty of water, with an emphasis on significantly reduced sugar and carbohydrates. And I have met people who think breakfast cereals are good because of advertising, but in fact, often those are highly processed foods. So breakfast cereals may not have additives or preservatives, or they may even have low sugar, but they're still not great. So consider eating dinner for breakfast. One way that we can really get a bead on how well we're eating, because I've met a lot of people who think they're eating really well, and especially this is for teens and children, is to keep a food and water or liquid intake log for a while to see what's really happening. Because what I notice is people are busy and they're not keeping track of it, and basically sometimes children end up just eating food that isn't really good for them because they'll self-select if they're allowed to choose from sugar dessert or sugar dessert, or they're getting rewarded with ice cream or something like that. And we often think we're eating fine until we make a record of the food intake over at least 3 days. A week is even better. And then you can see what's really happening. And if you can write down the time of day, there may be stressors that are related to not eating or eating too much, or that can affect our sleep cycles. So step number 8 is the sleep routine. People who are sensitive and empathic need to have a very kind of grounded way to get sleep, and creating repeating times for getting to sleep is really helpful. So that means you can't ever catch up on missing sleep. So if you don't get enough sleep, it's just a minus, and that can cause further depletions, and it can really be a tipping point for people. So overeating when there's sensitivity or feeling overwhelmed can also occur, and that causes sleep interruption, which also can make people even more sensitive. So create a sleep routine, which means to have a series of activities that is repeated each night at a certain time, because these activities tell your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spirit you are preparing for sleep. And the sleep routine can include soothing reading material, soothing music specific for relaxation, meditation or prayers, restful teas, so no caffeine, some very mild herbal teas, brushing your teeth, washing your face, taking a shower, and using a sleep log to see if getting enough sleep affects levels of sensitivity and empathy can be also very useful. So without enough sleep, the system gets overwrought, which contributes to oversensitivity and feeling overwhelmed. So getting enough sleep includes getting to sleep, so being able to fall asleep easily, sleeping deep enough for restoration, not waking up too early. Some people wake up at 3 and they can't get back to sleep, and then uninterrupted sleep. So sometimes people have many dreams or they're thrashing around. So those are all not good quality sleep. So if you have any of these sleep issues, then it's important to go deeper to help overcome those and to teach yourself ways to go back to sleep, which can occur through what I first mentioned, which is through the music that can create that relaxation response. And here's another restoration method for not absorbing energy that's disruptive if the person is a sensitive or an empath. So right before sleep, another way is to clear and release before you sleep. So this can be breathing and relaxing, listening to the music you've chosen for 5 to 10 minutes, or taking a shower. And these are good for children, adults, and teens. Sometimes people will journal, and the journaling will help to kind of dissipate the energy. And even children at the age of 4 can understand about that method before going to sleep. Other additions that can include soothing to help get to sleep are sometimes essential oils, avoiding caffeine at least 4 hours before going to sleep, which includes dessert chocolates. I've had some people tell me they can't skip their dessert chocolate. Also the same as for drinking caffeinated teas as a beverage. Those can disrupt sleep. People shake their heads, but it's true, it can. And get to bed at the same time or as close as possible and keep that routine. Other ways to encourage falling asleep easily is to avoid screen time, which includes phones, flat screens, TVs, computers, at least an hour to 2 hours before sleep. Step 9 is boundaries. Steps to sustain emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical boundaries benefit the sensitive or empathic person to support themselves in different environments for their well-being. So sometimes people don't realize they can create different kinds of boundaries when they are around different people, different environments, different situations. So knowing that the person has power over those boundaries is really useful. There are many ways boundaries can change and improve, which include physically moving in a different room, leaving a situation, quietly disagreeing or agree to disagree, changing relationships, learning different approaches to dealing with people through trainings. So an additional component of boundaries is to know that people don't have to remain in a situation. So sometimes we're socially trained that we have to do something. So this can be done with a child. So you can set up a word with a child or teen that they can say that tells the adult that they're uncomfortable or they need to leave, they're in distress. And it can just be a quiet word that is between both of them. And for adults, knowing you can create different boundaries in situations can empower you for creative solutions. Here's an extra method I'm going to call Don't Bring It Home. So whether you're at work, shopping, traveling, at school, an event, coffee shop, or have other activities where you're out, make sure before you get home, you clear yourself so you don't bring the energy back with you. And what that means is to develop a routine of thoughts or even behaviors that show yourself you are creating not only a separation, but a clearing and a release of whatever happened. A policeman told me he learned to change out of his uniform before leaving the station so he wouldn't bring his work home with him. And he learned that the hard way because he used to drive home in his uniform. So he would put his street clothes on before leaving the station, before getting into his vehicle, which I thought was brilliant. So one last comment. I want to be clear. Empathy and sensitivity and post-traumatic stress disorder also called PTSD, are different. And empathy and sensitivity are one way that people respond, and a PTSD response should not be confused. Now, there are people who have PTSD who are sensitive and empathic. People who have been exposed to trauma, whether repeated small events or one or more large traumatic events, can have emotional triggers from witnessing emotional situations. And these types of reactions are different from sensitivity and being an empath, and need to have a different kind of treatment. To learn more, to develop your empathy and sensitivity and to understand it, and intuition, here are 4 options. The first is the free ebook, Intuition Is Our Next Stage of Evolution and Methods to Implement in Your Life, and also the free 3-part video series, Intuition Is Our Next Stage of Evolution. Both of these are at www.twi.education under the Free Resources tab. So click on the tab and you'll be able to access the free material and other free resources. The third option is the book 50 Plus Kinds of Intuition and Exercises for Moving to the Next Level. 50 Plus Kinds of Intuition is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobe, and other locations. Then there's also the very in-depth look at intuition and layers of information in the 3 e-courses and the 1 in-person workshop. Intuition Evolution 1, Intuition Evolution 2, and Intuition Evolution 3 are the 3 e-courses that are over 50 hours, and the in-person workshop is over several days. You can learn more at www.twi.education under the e-courses tab, where you will find a comprehensive explanation. Thanks for watching 9 Steps for Sensitives and Empaths for Adults, Teens, and Children at Transformational Wisdom Institute. If you have any questions, contact info@twi.education. Bye for now.